that time of week once more for Muji and Dan to give you the comic store. It's time to open up those bags and boards, fans. Welcome to Get Your Pulls.
Welcome to Get Your Pulls number 87, the Happy Birthday Batman edition.
That's right. We go Batman to the long box today.
Yes.
To talk about our favorite Batman books and memories.
Yes. Tell you about our favorite Bat boners. First time that we loved Batman. Favorite Batman stories. Bunch of random stuff. Really no plan. We're just going to talk about Batman. So you know how we do. We could talk about him for like an hour or like 3 minutes because you never know how it goes. But that's going to be the main thing. We had a few books and then a little bit of news. There's Emerald City Comic Con this week, which is one of the big ones. So this is one of the best ones, or at least one of the most highly loved ones by creators and stuff, it seems. You see online, like, everybody loves Emerald City Comic Con. Whereas a lot of it has to do with they all live in fucking Portland, so it's in their area. So that probably has something to do with why they like it so much. But a little bit of news coming out of there. A lot of your general stuff, no real blockbuster announcements. It really seems like, I mean, we're only in March, but it really seems like at this point in the year is when companies like go complete shutdown, so like they can overload you at Comic-Con in San Diego with like every announcement that they have. But there's a bit of stuff. There was some DC news, a little bit of movie news, nothing real confirming, but they said expect an announcement upcoming, which everybody thinks will be at Comic-Con. Where apparently DC is going to announce the actual chain of like Justice League and affiliated movies. Finally, they're going to put out. So way before that movie comes out, they've got it in the plan. So apparently, Warner Brothers had a big shakeup last year where they basically had three heads of the studio. The head of the studio left, and they had three big time people that kind of ran the studio. One of them was the one that had to like to deal with Legendary, which I think is why they left because he wasn't picked president, and then. But the guy they picked president, they said since he's been the president, which is just for like less than a year, I guess, like over the past couple months has like really been like, yeah, like we're going to make a ton of these movies, so let's get the ball rolling on who's making them, when they're making them, all that. So the rumor is behind the scenes they may actually have lined up like quite a few movies with directors and stuff. They're just waiting to unleash them all in announcements. So that's pretty cool. Like, he just gave that, like, he wouldn't say anything about movies, he wouldn't even confirm a Justice League movie happening, but he just simply asked him if there were movies. He goes, yeah, we're going to have an announcement soon about a series of movies. So, that'll be cool.
Everybody looking forward to that. I know they announced the Earth One line is continuing.
Yeah, I guess sometimes. We're finally getting another book, at least. It's been a while since one of those fuckers came out.
There was not one in the entire year of 2013.
Yeah, because Superman came out first, I guess before the New 52, and then the second Superman and the first Batman Earth one were like right around the time it launched, and then, yeah, there isn't really...
And right now there is a Wonder Woman in the works.
Who's the note? It's probably not going to be this year, is what it's looking like, because they simply said, you know, like they can't announce anything concrete, so you think we're in March. If they had anything... Say we're like it's going to be November, they would announcement.
And is that the Grant Morrison?
That's the Grant Morrison written Wonder Woman. They've gone back. They said it was going to be an Earth 1 book, and then they were like, well, it's going to be its own thing, but now they're saying once again it's going to be an Earth 1 book. So, and they've also said the Earth 1 books have no continuity whatsoever, even within themselves. So even though you've got, you know, J. Michael Straczynski doing two Superman, which are in continuity, that doesn't mean somebody else might not come in and do Superman Earth 1 Book 3, and it has nothing to do with his book. So they're supposed to essentially take the place of like what they did so successfully in the 80s with just the Elseworlds graphic novels. And really a good thing to lure in big time people that can't commit to a timeline or doing a monthly book. You know, you could really get, you know, some big people to do the books, I think, as they're thinking on it. But
and it gives those same people the creative freedom they might look for in something like that, where they don't want to be tied into the continuity that's going on.
Yeah, exactly. But Lemire, that's the next one for sure that's happening. That's going to come out this year. He's announced he's doing Teen Titans Earth 1, so that's pretty cool. He says it's based off, I mean, the thing that got him into it was the Teen Titans from the 80s by George Perez and the Wolfman and that little team. Most of that, just the early 80s teams, and not the characters, though. He's going the non-sidekick route. He said in his world, they're just kids. Like, the heroes don't really have sidekicks. yet in any of the Earth One books or in his Earth One book. So that's gonna be it. So you know, you get there's not gonna be Robin or anybody like that in it.
So don't expect a retelling of Young Justice.
Yeah, so Cyborg's in it. I know he's in it, and he's, I think, the focus, or the biggest character in it, I think. And then some other people, but he was really the biggest one out of the crew. A couple of the people are people who I don't even think are like currently in the New 52. They're just old Teen Titans characters that he's drumming up. So that should be exciting. Like Lemire's stuff, so that's cool that that's coming out, because I didn't like that Batman Earth one. It was different. And they said there are going to be sequels. So there's going to be Batman Book 2 and Superman Book 3 and a Wonder Woman book. And then they said they do plan on doing more characters and stuff, but they just don't know who and when.
Interesting.
So that's cool.
There was a lot of Batman talk, of course, at the ECCC, with it being the 75th anniversary this year. Today, as we record this, the
official birthday, yes.
But lots of talk about Batman Eternal, and that's right up on us, and I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, that's next month?
That starts here in just a couple weeks.
Yeah, we finally get that going. So that's cool. They gave a little preview. I mean, like, you haven't already got enough previews, but they said Batman Eternal is going to explore everything. So basically, I mean, it's been clarified through all the interviews. Like, by now, what you can take from it is Snyder just co-wrote the first couple of issues. I think the first 3 with James Tynion. I guess Tynion is technically kind of like the leader of the Eternal story. I'm the one that's like making sure everything flows. And then Snyder just laid out his plans for the Batman proper book and what's going to be happening in it, so the Eternal matches up, and especially by the end of it, where it and Batman are going to be right in the same spot, and the events of Eternal that are going to play a big part of what's going on in Batman. But they threw out a few of the ideas. They talked about each of the people got to work with like their favorite characters. I think Tynion's story, it may be Tynion's story, it may be somebody else's story. I can't remember, but somebody brought up the idea that they thought about one of the neatest ideas I heard, because they brought up a bunch of stuff. I mean, they said they're going to talk about a bunch of different people in the Batman universe. I mean, you've already seen from the previews, you know, that you're going to get to see Stephanie Brown coming back. You're going to get to see Harper Row and what she's going to be doing. But even like way more absurd characters than that, you know, way smaller characters. That you're going to get Professor Pig in there somewhere. You're going to get to find out what's happening with all of the Batman Inc. characters, heroes and villains from Batman Inc., and kind of reassociate them to the New 52 now that Batman Inc.'s over. Like, most of those people have not made any appearances. The coolest story I heard about, where they were like, you know, a story that I don't think anybody's ever told before, but it's one of those no-brainers that when you hear it, you're just like, that's a great idea, I can't believe nobody's done it, is a true crime author who writes a book about the Joker and what it's going to be like for him to live. He's from Gotham, and they're like, that's a natural thing. If the Joker's been going nuts for all these years, somebody's going to write a book about him. And of course, the Joker is probably going to, you know, seek that person out, whether he's happy about it or not. And that seems like such an easy, like, yeah, of course somebody would do it.
Yeah, I can't believe they haven't done that yet.
Especially with
That's
a bunch
of fantastic idea.
Especially with Azzarello and Rucka and guys who, like, you know, and even like newer, like, they've been writing Batman, John Layman, people that you know have written true crime books that you go, oh man, like, that makes total sense. So that sounds like an exciting story. You have an author living in Gotham who got famous by writing a book about the Joker, and so you get a story about him. Like, that sounds great. So, gets me more pumped up for that. Because, you know, you feel with Snyder at the head that, and with such a talented crew, I mean, Tim Seeley, it'll be great to see him doing some DC stuff on the regular.
Yes,
you know.
yes. And apparently, you know, we were just talking about how we wish he would take over on the DC book. Now, little to our knowledge, he actually took over Talon after...
We just did 2 issues, yeah. He did the end
of
it.
Okay. I thought he had a more full-on arc.
Yeah, he just got a
just the last 2.
Yeah, just the last 2 before it ended, yeah. But, I mean, it looks like DC's throwing him work, so, you know, I don't know. I mean, he's got, you know, his own books, his own indie books. I don't know if he's trying to get a monthly book or anything, because you would think that, you know, I'm sure he's probably been offered stuff. But it'll be cool.
He's one of the best horror writers in the business right now, and DC would just be like, with the success they've had with Scott Snyder, I think it would be stupid for them to not pick up him as a full-time guy.
Yeah, I think so too. But yeah, he's on the book, and it does sound, the more you hear about Eternal, like, you know, it sounds exciting. I've never been like down on it, but there are times you think about it, you're like, man, it could end up being a clusterfuck. Like, you never know. But
sure.
The more you hear about it, does sound way more promising. Especially when you think like each of the individual writers are just writing an arc, then there's a new arc, and there's a new arc. So, they are kind of just working on their little stories at a time, and so that's cool. We heard that. I mean, heard some of that stuff about Batman, about what's coming up next. I guess in Batman after 0 years over. I mean, we do start. The last arc of it starts this week, and I think there's still 3 or 4 issues left of 0 year. So I mean, we're still looking at the end of the summer.
Yeah, there's a whole nother third of it.
Yeah, I think it's 4 issues, which he said there's not gonna be another break. By the way, quick sidebar, just of a rant, is
bum bum bum, Muji sidebar.
I mean, I guess everybody doesn't follow like Snyder on Twitter, but you would think that anyone reporting on comics does. Like that would he'd be one of the people that you would definitely follow. And even
especially since Twitter is now a credible news source, apparently.
Yeah, I mean it's at least enough, but you get like, even with a bunch of interviews he's done, like you knew like, as long as you're paying any attention at all, that like there was gonna be that break in 0 year, and you knew why, and that's the part that's getting me. Like I read a bunch of reviews of like that issue of the book and then the one after, and people were like, yeah, it's good, but with the momentum that's been kind of lost in 0 year because of the break, it's like I don't understand why they would put this issue in here, and I don't understand why. It's like some of the reviews, like he did an interview on your website saying why they took the break. It's because it was to give Capullo time. Like they made it clear he didn't come out and go like Capullo got behind, but he a couple of times was like, we want every issue of this story to be drawn by Greg, and we're never going to have a delay, and it's important that all of our stories, that we want Greg to do every issue. Like they made it clear, so
just letting him get ahead.
Yeah, just letting him get ahead. Yeah, because they say he does a ton of stuff, but I mean they've got annuals to do, they've got all sorts of things going on in Batman, but that was it. And these issues have been gigantic. When you think about so many of these issues randomly are 40 pages and stuff, that's it. So I mean, it feels like it's pretty obvious. So I just think it's weird. Like he does an interview on the site, and then within the comic review itself, it's like, well, I don't understand. I don't understand why they would make this choice. It's because they're breaking up. It's like they didn't make the choice. They're like, hey, we need a little bit of time on the story. Would you rather A, there not be a comic, B, there just be a random other creative team to do a fill-in issue, or would you like something that's going to pay off in the future? It's like, it feels the same people that bitch about like everything was going good, but then this issue there was a different artist, and so it really threw it off. Instead of doing that, they're like, we'll just push the issue back, and we'll give you an exciting edition of Batman that previews this next big story that everybody's going to like. You still are like, well, but still, I don't know why they did that. It's like, they told you why they did it.
Yeah, if they were like trying to suck like multiple dollars from me, I would maybe be pissed about it, like they do sometimes in the Green Lantern crossovers and other books. But really, the one issue that is really just featuring shit that they've already like built up. If you've talked about Batman, I mean, just seeing Harper Row in a Nightwing outfit fighting alongside Batman is a bit of a payoff to things that they've already established in that same book. So I don't see how it's a disappointment in that respect.
No, and especially when they explain it. It's just one of those things where, like, it's not to be interpreted. Like, they explain the reason. It's not like, well, I feel like this. It's like, you don't get to have feelings when you, like, have the facts. It's not for you to interpret why you think this when he said that. And also, I think if you took a poll of people that read Batman on the regular, and they're like, we got a couple options. We can either have somebody besides Capullo come in and draw an issue, or we can not have Batman this month and just push it back to next month, or we'll give you a preview of Batman Eternal and then we'll be back on schedule. I'm guessing you're like 85% picking, let's get that preview of Batman Eternal. I want Capullo to draw the fucking story. So I don't get it.
Of course you do.
People can be that way. But, yeah, whatever. But anyways, back on point. Yeah, they talked about that. They talked about other Batman stuff in Emerald City. It was just your standard stuff. Scott Snyder is the type of guy that really, in an interview, does the longest interviews ever. So I did find it funny, like every panel he was on, they were like, they didn't have time for crowd questions, like they kept running out of time. And I was like, that makes sense to me. And also, anytime you ask him a question, this is good because he's the best. It's great for the story, but part of the response is, the story's so important to me. Like every question, there's like the first minute is talking about how important the story is and how surprised he is that people like it, even though it's like you've had like the fucking one of the top 2 or 3 best-selling comics for like going on 3 years now, bro. You shouldn't be surprised, but it's funny. But yeah, I mean, there wasn't like a whole lot announced. I had a Marvel panel for books that, I mean, have been long announced, but just new stuff that's coming out.
Yeah, I mean, there's really not a lot to talk about.
Just to tell you about it, they had
a lot of people are hyped for the Marvel movies coming up. We're going to see Captain America: The Winter Soldier this week.
Oh yeah, next week we'll certainly have a report on that.
That's right, the official Getchyapulls Captain America: The Winter Soldier review on issue 88 coming up next week. Going Thursday night at 8 p.m., 8:30. I mean, I can't wait. I just, like, Nerd Boner is at full fucking mast.
Yeah.
The Winter Soldier.
I mean, we got that. I mean, as we're recording, the finale of Walking Dead's going, so next week we'll have both of those to talk about. And we'll be, if it ends up being like a 2-minute podcast, it's simply because we want to watch Game of Thrones, because that's also coming back next week. So
yeah, next week there probably won't be an episode recorded actually on Sunday, but that won't stop us. We'll get together one day and do it. It just won't be recorded on the regular day. But anyway, with all the talk from Batman and the 75th anniversary at the Emerald City Comic Con, we decided that in lieu of a Back to the Long Box segment this week, we would talk about the Cape Crusader and the 75th birthday and just kind of what he means to us and our favorite books. Muji actually brought a selection of his.
Yeah, I brought something. I mean, most of the books, the famous Batman books, I mean, you know, you don't really need in front of you to talk about, or the favorite stories, but yeah, I mean, Batman's the most awesome. He's like the most awesome there is, I think. I mean, Batman's one of the things, like, I mean, it's hard to say, like, what the most famous thing in the world is, but, I mean, if you're looking at, like, if the world fucking, like, a meteor hit the earth and exploded, and then there are only, like, 100 people left, like, there's a good chance that 99 of them know who Batman is.
Yeah, I heard Kevin Smith on one of the Fat Man on Batman podcasts, which, by the way, quick plug, if you love Batman, no better source than that. Go subscribe to him. Download all the back episodes. Really a great chronicle of Batman history there.
It's pretty great. You can skip the one where he talks to the fucking guy who did the audio for the Batman movies if you want, or you can listen to it. But
if you really want the full Bat experience,
more times than not, it's pretty great.
But I heard him talking on there about does Batman have 100% penetration in the world psyche? Like, I mean, aside from people who live in remote villages who've never seen a television set. Like, you know, you have to think that pretty much, and infants who can't comprehend, like, you have to think that pretty much everyone else would be familiar with that insignia.
You would think that the majority of people are. I mean, I have like, read stuff where, like, that you just don't think about where, like, as an example, like, I was reading a thing the other day where, like, because I've just been thinking about Star Wars for some reason. I watched the fucking shitty prequels this week just to remind myself, be like, yeah, they're still not good.
No, you need to go back and watch the Clone Wars.
Yeah, and
Netflix. It's there.
I watched the regular movies too, just to be reminded how awesome they are. Now people like to retroactively look back and kind of shit on Jedi, like that's becoming a cool thing to do, but it's great. But anyways, off that, I just randomly saw like Natalie Portman. I saw an interview with her where she was like, I'd never heard of Star Wars before these movies. So, I mean, it's possible. You would think that somebody in the late 90s that was a teenager, there's no way you could. But yeah, I mean, it's fucking, as many people know about Batman as anything else. Like, outside of, like, fucking Jesus, probably. He might be number 2, or he's tied for number 2 with some other stuff.
Yeah.
But I can't think of anything that people know more about Batman. And it's crazy, too, because everybody's got, like, their own Batman. Like, he's different than a lot of people. Because if you like Superman, I mean, Superman's pretty much been the same forever. I mean, you get a little different. He's probably been the most different in, you know, Man of Steel, which, of course, was, you know, why a lot of people were butthurt. The people that are like, I don't want to see the same thing over and over. It's like, this isn't my Superman. So you got to pick one or I'm going to punch you in the dick.
Yeah, you absolutely have to pick one. And I do think Superman, he's been slightly, like, attitude-wise, he's been curtailed to his generation. But
he's like
never had a big
physical
makeover. Yeah, you've had that little 10%. that changes
Yeah.
with the times, but that 90% of
Yeah.
his makeup is the same. Batman is not.
Yeah, the thing that made you love Superman has always been essentially the same. I mean, you know, and you can't say that for like actually a lot of superheroes, or a lot of superheroes that depending on when you grew up, you know, what drew you to them is. But Batman is the one is the weirdest because the Batman from the 1966 show, which is what made a bunch of people our age and younger love Batman, is, you know, like probably outside of just the normal "this is my name, these are the people I fly with" is, you know, 90% different than the Batman that are in all the movies and they're in the comics, you know, that have come out since then. So
It is, but that I tell you, that was my introduction. Me and my cousins watching
yeah,
the old reruns on the Family Channel.
yeah. I mean,
in
me
the
too. I mean,
mid
I
and
was
late
born.
'80s,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was born in '83, and so, I mean,
and we would. I tell you, we at my grandparents' house, we would put towels around our necks, and we would sing the Batman song and play fight.
I went as Batman 2 years in a row for Halloween, both pre-'89 movie. I know for sure. And I had another thing. I still have a Batman cape from when I was a baby. Like, it's a cape for a baby. Now, it ties around the neck, so I often ask my mom, like, what were you doing tying a cape around my neck when I was a baby? But it's probably hoping I would jump out of the crib, try to fly, and she'd be done with me. But I remember 2 years in a row, I just remember specifically that the Batman costume, you know, I got some El Cheapos from like Kmart, you know, like full plastic outfit with plastic cowl and everything, and ripped the ass on them 2 years in a row. Because I remember specifically the second year being my mom being like, the same thing happened last year. And my brother went as Robin both times, so that's pretty awesome.
Well, the TV show was my first introduction, and then the Super Friends came along, and
I never even watched that. I watch cartoons. Now, I mean, I've been on record a lot as like I just don't watch much animated stuff. I mean, it's really even different. Like Batman animated series, calling it a cartoon is like fucking.
let's say we're getting there.
It is a cartoon, but it's different. It's like there is animation. It's almost like the film to movie thing where there's a lot of these things that obviously are taken like way more serious. But I never really watched Super Friends.
Yeah, see, I did. I caught the original TV show first in syndication, and then also Super Friends in syndication. Both of those were before my time in their original airings. Of course, the original
Everything
was 66.
when we were a kid was, man. I mean, you think about the cartoons we grew up on. All those cartoons were from like 20 years before.
Yeah, I think Super Friends was like from like 76, 77. But you know, I started getting all that in syndication, so I got really into it. I had all the action figures. I had the Superman. I actually ruined a Superman because I had the villains trap him in a fortress of mud one time, and Batman had to rescue him.
Yeah, man, I lost a really good G.I. Joe one time having a similar situation. I went to a car wash. It's kind of an embarrassing story. I went to a car wash. My mom was getting her car washed. And it was like they just built it and they were trying to put grass in, so it was all mud. So me and my brother were just like sliding down this hill full of mud. And we got to the bottom. We got so muddy, she just washed her car that she made us both strip down to our undies and ride in our undies back home. And it's when you could go through the drive-thru at gas stations. So I remember my mom going through the drive-thru at like the Golden Gallon. And I mean, I wasn't even like 4 or 5, like not even in school yet. I remember being incredibly embarrassed.
That's really fucking funny.
It's probably what made me not want to like swim without a shirt for years, Mom. But yeah, I've lost figs. I had those figs too, though. That was one of the cool things when the '89 movie came out.
Oh, they re-released all of them.
They re-released them with very little alterations, but a couple. Like they were like, we're gonna paint the Batman black for the movie at least.
Well, you had a whole new Batman line.
Yeah.
You got like a Riddler and a Penguin, I think.
I mean, you got some extra things, but they re-released them and called them something to that nature, Super Friends, or they called them Superpowers. Like, all Batman had with the logo from the movie was Batman, Joker, Bob. The first line, that's it. And there was a sweet Batmobile and a bunch of stuff, but that's all that had the card that had the Batman movie logo on it. Then there was a Robin and a blue suit Penguin and a Riddler. And then there was a Joker that was the exact same figure.
And a Mr. Freeze that you put in the freezer and he turned blue.
Yeah, those were all released, but they were all under like the super. I think they were called Superpowers in that iteration. But yeah, I had all those. So that brings me to the thing that really made me completely Batman crazy. I mean, if not already loving Batman, going this Halloween 2 years in a row, You know,
89, man.
already loved it. 89.
Everybody knows 89, man.
89 is like, everybody says what their Star Wars was. That was our Star Wars.
Absolutely. I've never seen anything like that as far as like a cultural phenomenon.
No.
Like, it was
It hasn't
fucking
happened.
everywhere.
And part of the world, like, I don't even know if anything could be like that again, because the way that the world and shopping and stuff has changed. Like, people don't go to malls and stores. Everybody orders stuff off Amazon. I mean, you could not go shop somewhere without it being filled with Batman. My mom was a manager at Kmart. You could go meet Batman and have your picture taken with him.
Yes, shopping centers actually had a Batman on hand to take pictures
like he was
with
fucking
people
Santa.
because he was this fucking popular.
Yeah.
Every rack you turned had Batman shirts. I had
And they
not even fucking knowing what it was, bro. In 1989, I had the fucking Killing Joke Joker shirt. From the fucking where he's like holding his head and it has the ha 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 ha.
Yeah, your parents had no idea that you were wearing a shirt where a rape was committed in the book, or might have been committed. Yeah, it's just like, oh, that's Batman. Yeah, man. I mean, and that's where the merch, of course, had everything. Plenty of clothes. I had a Batman belt buckle. A lot of stuff that when I outgrew, I tossed that I wish I'd have kept, but. Few Batman shirts. Of course, everybody just had a plain black one with the logo. I got one of those again.
Still got one.
But yeah, I had one back then as a kid. My Batman keychain that I now carry, that my mom had back then, and just threw it in a drawer, and I randomly came across, and it's got 89, on the bottom. You can still see the year, and I'm like, this is like movie promotional stuff. Hell yeah. That was everything. And I remember they tried that with a few other things because it was so successful. I remember going back to Kmart, and they did it for Dick Tracy. They had people dress up as Dick Tracy. And my mom was dressed up as the Madonna character. I didn't think that was cool. But they tried that with a bunch of other stuff and it didn't work. But with Batman, it was like that. Dude was like, I want to fucking go meet Batman. Like, everybody was doing it. They had all these people with good-ass suits, too. You could buy, that was the first thing that I was ever like, you go through, like, JCPenney's, and there's, like, a fucking, like, $200 full Batman outfit, that you're like, holy shit. Like, it was everything. And that summer was just the summer of Batman. Like, nothing else mattered at all. And then, that's what, it got you. It says Batman trading cards, countless money spent on Batman trading cards, man.
And that's like really where I got hardcore into Batman comics, because you had so many reprints out on the shelves at that time trying to capitalize on the movie.
That's mainly what you got, because
I got like the issue where Nightwing and Batman split up in a reprint. I got the issue where the Joker shot Robin, fucking just crazy great like reprints from the Neil Adams era mainly of Batman. It's really fantastic stuff.
That's when I liked comics and got into comics as a kid. That was during that time where very, like Batman came out, the movie came out, and over the next couple years between like Batman and Batman Returns, that's when they started reprinting comics like a son of a bitch. It was like in 89 and 90. So, and that's actually what got me into like most of the Marvel stuff too. Like, I guess the X-Men cartoon is probably what was my first like love of like Marvel stuff. Outside, everybody watched the shitty Hulk TV show and like, which was awesome then. And stuff like that. But that was like the thing, that was like the closest to Batman fever was like fucking the X-Men thing from Marvel where, you ordered pizzas from Pizza Hut. You're like, what do you want for dinner? It's like, I want to order a pizza for Pizza Hut so I can get the fucking X-Men VHS. Like, what do you think I want? But that's how it was with Batman, and just all the merch and everything, and that's what got me like going. And one of the weird things was too was like, that's what got me into like my uncles and like a bunch of people. They were Marvel people, but they were also the age of that. They're all born in the '60s, so like that was like the cool thing then.
Yeah,
so,
Marvel was the voice of that generation, honestly.
So that's that's what got me into Marvel stuff. Was like I went, and the only Batman comics that I had as a kid, I didn't have very many, but they were all from getting those like packs of reprints where you didn't get 4 Batman, you get like 1 Batman, a Brave and the Bold, a fucking Robin comic. I remember my brother loved Robin, so I remember him like having like a little box where all he really had was like a couple Robin comics because he called dibs on those. But that's where I got those, but then, showing my uncle and stuff, like, well, we have a shit ton of this old stuff, so just getting a bunch of old Fantastic Fours is like what got me actually like buying comics. Like, I never bought a comic at a comic shop until like 2 years ago.
Well, when we were kids, you could just get them on the newsstand.
That's where you got them. Even though there were a ton of comic shops back then. There were a bunch. Anybody that had baseball cards had at least some comics. There were Jerry's Comics and Cards, where I constantly went in to try to find like baseball and football cards. Probably had a ton of comics that now going back I wish I'd have bought, but yeah, I mean that was it. I got almost all mine from I don't know what it's called now, but it was called a Refco. Remember, like whatever it is.
CVS.
CVS, yeah, their stores. It was called a Refco, and it was next to like the Bilo, which was in the Red Food, in the town that we still live in because we suck. Side Daisy. But yeah, I would go in there, and it was whatever was on the counter. You know, it'd be like, oh shit, there's Fantastic Four, and I remember getting like Death of Superman off the shelf there.
Oh, they had like these great unlicensed horror comics at my little corner store that was like, they would have like Jason fighting Hellraiser and fucking shit like that. It was really cool.
And you get the same 4 packs of X-Men comics, or you get one X-Men. That was the thing. You're trying to like complete your story, but you could only see one comic. That was one of the things with these reprint bags, where they weren't all the same. They would get you in the same way that baseball cards would get you.
So,
you would end up with like 1,000 like X-Force number like 55s, and you're like, I just want this one X-Men comic to complete the thing.
Yeah,
but yeah, back to Batman. I mean, that's the thing.
But I think Batman launched that early '90s comics.
Oh yeah,
I think that Batman '89's popularity,
the Batman movie,
just spilled into that '90s comic boom.
It got people in the stores. Now, when they got in the stores, they might have been like, "Oh, there's other comics that we like better than Batman." But yeah.
And then you had Batman Returns, and that was like a pretty like people were excited about it, but it was kind of a letdown. And people started cooling on Batman.
It got a little weird.
In the populace, but for us, that's right when Batman the Animated Series hit.
Yeah.
So it was every day when I got home from school. First thing I turned on Fox, there it was, right there in the early 90s.
Yeah.
God, that show brings back so much great nostalgia for me.
It was really weird when it came on, too, because I remember watching some of it, but I kind of fell out of it because they changed like when it was on so many times. Like I remember being excited and pumped up because, you know, it was coming on at like 9 o'clock at night. I think it was when the first one aired. It was like prime time on like a Sunday, wasn't it?
I remember watching the first 2 seasons like as they aired every time.
Yeah,
but after that, when I went back and watched it on DVD was where I started like not remembering shit.
Yeah, I mean, I watched it, and I remember watching it here and there. I remember a problem being it aired in prime time, and to try to get your parents to watch a cartoon in prime time was pretty tough for a kid, especially like when it came out. I mean, you didn't necessarily have more than like one TV that got cable, you know, like in like 92, so it was like...
What was interesting about that cartoon, though, is that also, like, it didn't end until I was in my first year of high school, and all the high school kids... Nobody was ashamed to admit they watched the Batman cartoon, even then. And I always found that weird, because if it was anything else, you would have been lambasted and humiliated because it was a comic book character. But I think that, like, pretty much even all the kids of that day, it spoke to everybody.
Yeah, I mean, people obviously really liked it, so that was cool. And it was a continuation, too. It was way before companies, like, figured out, and it took them a while to get back to it, like continuity. The continuity that people love it. Like just by having, which I mean they did stick to like the things from the Burton movies, at least I mean at first stuck to it like a book, and then, you know, kind of altered some stuff a little bit later, but just hearing the theme from the movie when the cartoon started, you were like, oh shit, this is like the movie, you know? So like all of a sudden, even though Michael Keaton wasn't Batman anymore, and, you know, as a kid you didn't know who the fuck, there was an IMDb, you didn't know who the fuck was Batman on the show, it was still the same character 100% to you. You were like, yes, you know, like this is like, you know, it sucks there's not a Batman 3 coming out, you know, this year, but damn it, like we have like this world and like all these things. And I didn't even read comics. I mean, I had probably like a year or two there where I really liked comics as a kid. Even my mom still has, where I drew some terrible art and wrote some fucking comics. Or one called Super Kid. So, yeah. There you go. Which was simply stuff like him and his fucking dog running off bad dogs in the neighborhood. It was about a 4 or 5 issue arc before that thing got canceled. But, yeah, that's like, I mean, I was really into it then, and then, I mean, I didn't start reading comics again until like 2 or 3 years ago. But I've loved Batman the whole time, you know? He's somebody that, like, even if you don't read comics, I mean, obviously fucking, you know, The Dark Knight made $1 billion. And
Yeah, I even said like going to see like Batman Forever in high school and people being excited about it.
yeah, everybody was pumped, and that's a movie too that also has like been shat upon a lot more as it's gotten older. I mean, even then you're like, man, this isn't as good, but everybody was still pretty happy. Like at least people our age, and that movie ended.
Yeah.
You still thought it was pretty badass. Like even though Tommy Lee Jones was pretty awful in that. I think a lot of it's just people didn't take it serious back then. Like now, there's nothing at all like about being back then being in a fucking superhero movie might as well be in a porno for actors. Like you're just like, oh dude, what are you doing? But like back then there was, so it almost seemed to be like sometimes you'd get people like you got Tommy Lee Jones like just hamming it up to the extreme, and it's like, no man, like Two-Face has a pretty intricate story. Like he's a dude.
Yeah, you could take it seriously.
You can take it as seriously as you want.
Be
like,
menacing and things, but
yes.
but like you know that was well received still, and then Batman and Robin came out, and that
it just killed it.
Threw the cold water on the Batman franchise until Nolan got a hold of it. That brought it back, and now here we are, right in the middle of Batman fever, as Ben Affleck is about to make his debut. Now, the character appeals to different people for different reasons. Yeah. Muji, what makes you just obsessive about all things Batman?
I mean, as a kid, it's because he looks cool, and too many people don't want to admit this. Like, it's a thing that like I've seen people get away from. Like, you don't want to admit you like a character that's like a woman because she's sexy, but like as a kid, like when you're like a teenager, that's the first thing that draws you. It's just people in general. It's like, you know why Affleck's playing Batman and not, 99% of the world? Because he's good looking. Like, you know why Anne Hathaway's Catwoman? She's a great actress, but she's also good looking. So I think the way that characters look, and as a kid, as a teenager, a lot of like the characters you like is because you either want to be the dude because he looks cool, or you want the girl to be your girlfriend because she's hot to you. That's just human, like, natural stuff 101. And then as you get older, you look deeper into the stuff and find new reasons. But that was it 100% when I was a kid. I was like, I had a little brother. He wanted to be Robin. I wanted to be Batman, Also, my brother, and he was like a foot shorter than he should have been his whole life until he was an adult, where he finally got to the proper height. So we could always walk around like feeling and like the same as that too. Like we would play Batman and Robin. I mean, that was it at first. It's like Batman looks awesome. He's got all this cool stuff. Everybody, you make your own. I had a utility belt, like a cheap one that broke. Then you make one. You just tie a belt around your fucking waist, and they're like, this is my utility belt. We used to get in trouble. My grandma lived in a really old, like, modeled house. So, like, the pipes that came from her shower wasn't running in the wall. It ran, like, from where the shower was put in, out of the wall, and had its own separate giant pipe that ran down beside her porch. Me and my brother would get in trouble all the time for jumping off the porch and bear hugging this pipe and riding these pipes down to the ground, thinking we're going into the Batcave. So, I mean, at first, that's it. It's like, you're just like, Batman is awesome. Like, he looks awesome. And, and from the TV show, and he gets to kick people's asses, we would walk around kicking stuffed animals, yelling boom pow, and wanting to look like Batman. I mean, that's what I think as a kid, for most kids, most of the things you like as a kid, unless all of a sudden you're just some, like, deep, like, a 30-year-old and a 6-year-old's body. I mean, that's how you pick it. Why is Deadpool awesome? His character sucked for years before it got good. It's because he looks awesome. That's why most characters you like at first as a kid, is just because they look cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair assessment. And of course, I think that's what turned me on to Batman originally. Just the fun of the character, just something enduring about it. I liked it that it was a little dark and a little menacing, especially in the 90s.
Yeah, especially once the movie came out. I mean, that was it too. It was also like this thing where we weren't that old, but I mean, when the first movie came out, 6, well, the next one comes out, it's 8 or 9. The cartoon comes out like 9 or 10. But you're still like, you're to the point to where like you love Batman, but like that was really like a Batman that adults could appreciate too. Like the 89 movie, like I remember my mom loved it, and my dad loved it, I went to the movies. It's one of the few movies I remember my dad actually leaving the house to go see in the theater, So it also felt cool because it was like a thing kids could like, but you also felt like a little cooler because you were like in on like what the adults liked as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think, like, to the origin story, like, I don't think that needs to be overlooked, especially if you're a kid, you come upon that. It's pretty much every kid's worst nightmare and to put yourself in the shoes of young Bruce Wayne at the age of 8 or 9 years old, when that type of shit's like really sinking in, is like how that would affect your life. And it's weird that so many people identify because, he is this kid of privilege who, even though he's lost his parents, he's still got everything, like most kids would be shipped off to a fucking orphanage or, something much worse would happen than their British butler taking care of them in the house that they've got to grow up in already. But I think maybe there's another side to that that's like, well, even though he's got everything, he still can't replace his parents.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's more of a thing as you get older, you connect to, like, even a little bit more, because even if your parents are there for you, or just one of them's there for you, or whatever, like, you can certainly identify with the fact of, trying to, like, avenge, like, what's happened to your parents or something, like, even if it's, like, your place in life, being like, my parents are, thinking about, like, my mom or my dad's a good person, like, even if they're there, being like, they shouldn't be stuck doing this shit job, I want to fucking, proves that they've done a good job raising me, I mean, that's part of Batman, too. Think about everyone wants to go out and show people, hey, my parents are awesome, look at me, like, I'm awesome now,
That mission, that...
You can connect with that.
That drive, and it's like, as in your adult life, Dan, it's a fucking inspiration. As cheesy and fucking lame as it might sound, it's like, you fucking Batman can come save you. It's like, no, like, when I'm having a fucking shit
Batman
day...
could save you, when you fucking feel like everything in the world's against you, and you, like, are, to the point to where you want to cry, and you pop in, like, the animated series, or you pop in a movie, or go back to, like, I mean, fucking, I'm gonna admit, like, if I get depressed, I've trouble every once in a while with that, you pop in the things that, like, you remember making you feel good as a kid. I either pop in, Back to the Future, or Star Wars, or Batman. I watch Batman 89 when I get depressed a lot, and you immediately are like, this is, it makes you feel good, and there are plenty of inspiration stuff to that too, man. I mean, like, if you are of the mindset that any sort of art can, like, inspire you and, help you, like, be a better person or be happier, then Batman is 100% a viable option for, like, being that art. There's so much good of it. There's so many good stories, so many, like, deep stories. One of the things that, like, just bums me out when I hear people talk about, like, Batman. Like, I've heard some really respectable people say that, Batman is, like, a one-dimensional character that they would never, like, want to, like, like, direct a movie about or, like, write about because whatever. And I'm just like, you obviously haven't fucking read Batman, dude. I don't know how.
You just don't get it.
To me, he's the deepest character. And, and some people, it bums them out. They're like, it's simple. He lost his parents, so now he wants to avenge them. And it's like, if you want to get that way, every hero is that simple. If you want to just do their premise. Right. But all the stories that have come out, I mean, are so deep. Like, all the great stories, all the things. And there is, man. I mean, people in real life, like, a big majority of people have something that's happened in life, some sort of demon that either drives them to be successful or to not be successful, either holds you back or makes you good at something like your whole life. And he's got a great one. And almost anybody you look at that's, like, super successful, when they get old and they really talk about it, it's because of this.
Yeah, it's silly as it is. When you're, like, dealing with a challenge in your life, like, you can sit back and say, well, how would fucking Batman handle this? And as queer as it fucking sounds, it's like, it actually is true.
It's totally valuable. And I mean, I think he's one of the deepest characters. I mean, he's got the best origin, and the origin that's been copied a billion times, even smaller. I mean, you take, like, what's about Spider-Man? It's different. He fucked up and caused his uncle to die, but it's the death of a family member that drives him to actually be, like, a good person. Batman did it first. Like a lot of the people. I mean, also, so I know his was, after watching a little documentary, you got to see, like, well, when he started out, he was, a lot of Batman came from the shadow. They just changed it around. But then he became, like, way more than that. And also that, too. I mean, there's plenty of deepness to him. I don't have to explain it all, but... I mean, what about someone who could have everything in the world? I mean, look at real life. Look at who are the people that from an early age are spoilt rotten, even if their parents are alive or dead, but have everything they want. Most of them turn out to make pornos or be losers. I mean, all the famous, like, people, the kids of famous people, a lot of them turn out really fucked up. And then you've got Bruce Wayne, who has everything in the world, who could have been like, my parents are dead. Dude, fuck this. Like, I got fucked in life, so I'm just gonna party and, and hook up with hot chicks and spend all my money however I want and do whatever, and you would go, that makes sense. Like that's that guy got fucked. Like he's never gonna recover from seeing his parents killed in front of him. He might as well live it up and be drunk until he dies. But instead, he does the exact opposite, where he 100% puts himself on the line. Like the story of Batman is a story that, like almost all other times in fiction, is attributed to somebody who was like poor, that grew up on the streets, that decided, I'm going to fix this.
Absolutely.
He's a guy who had no reason to, because he's a one percenter. Like the one percenters can live 100% above and not be affected by the bad things that happen, but he put himself in the middle. Also, the reason, I think for like a long time, like nobody, like Green Arrow didn't connect with people, was because he was just a dude that had like a great life that was like, then like, I want to fight like bad guys, and it's like, but why? You have no reason to. It's just because you have some means, which he's awesome now, but I mean that's, for a while I think people didn't like him. Or the same thing that leads Lex Luthor to be an evil villain, which is what also could be an expect for Batman. He's different. There's just so much to him. I mean, he's just awesome. He takes the best of everything. Like anything, any sort of genre, anything you like. Like if you like martial arts, he's written to be like one of the great martial artists in the world. He's one of the smartest, like his detective stories. And he's such a deep character that you can write all sorts of different genres for Batman stories that are all great. I mean, you look at like the classic Batman, Arkham Asylum is a horror story. And people love it. And, some of Snyder's like detective, like it's different, but there is some in his detectives, more like a horror story, you like, and plenty of the old stories. You can do trippy Batman stories just because of the fucking idea of this dude is dressed up. He didn't just decide to fight crime, he decided to dress up like a goddamn bat to fight the crime. So you get plenty of like trippy stories that are great, or just the straight up detective stories are great, or if you want to go the classic, what people consider even though superheroes are not a genre, it's just, comics. It's one of the things that bug me. People think comics are a genre, like it's not. It's just
Yes, the premise is superheroes, but that's such a general term to like discuss. And it's interesting that Batman is the most popular and enduring comic book character. He's what I call, Spider-Man very much is based off him, as you'd mentioned, but is also the equivalent to him on the Marvel side, because it's like, okay, in the DC universe, Superman is the most important character.
Batman's the one that kept them making comics.
Exactly.
And Spider-Man was the comic that kept them. I know Fantastic Four was like the first Lee Kirby hit, but Spider-Man's the thing that kept them in business.
I'm talking about within the context of the fiction, though. Within the context of the fiction, Superman is the big dog. And the Marvel side, in the context of the fiction, Captain America is the greatest superhero that ever lived.
Yeah, there's plenty of people more powerful than Spider-Man.
But Spider-Man's the linchpin of Marvel.
Yeah.
And Batman is the linchpin of DC and comic books in general, if you want to go that far.
Yeah. So, there's a billion different reasons. And then, if you're now growing up, you have a bunch of different reasons. For a lot of people, The Dark Knight, which, is still, it's the best Batman movie. It's hard to beat the nostalgia of being a kid. But there's a lot of people growing up who, that was their introduction to why Batman was awesome. And it was a great introduction. And then they get to go back and discover, all the old Batman stuff, too. So, I just think that he's also, like I said, with a lot of characters, a lot of people complain, and nothing gets me more mad than when people complain about fucking, Batman. I saw some the only bad reviews those movies got were, are too dark, or supposed to be for kids, they're not kids. It's that's the great thing about Batman, is you can tell a story about kids. Read the current Batman 66 comic is great, and it's a comic that you could give your kid, and they're going to think it's awesome. But you can also write a Batman that's for people in their 30s and 40s, the things that you're dealing with as a 30 or 40-year-old, and it's going to be just as awesome in a different way. Batman's the type of person you can tell, any type of story with that character, and it doesn't feel cheap or forced or something, It's it's the same. If you, and I think that was a problem a lot of people had with Man of Steel, if you try to put Superman in a gritty world, you're going to have to get used to that. You may accept it, and I'm sure by the time these movies are over, I think people will a little bit more, but it's hard. He feels out of place at first. But Batman, you can put in anything, and he feels in place, which is, hard for, most characters to do. And, that's what's awesome about him.
Yeah, without a doubt, one of the most important characters in all of fiction. in history, in my opinion, and certainly the most important character in comics.
Yeah, I mean, he's our modern, like, I mean, if you think about the things that you, like, read in school that are the things that are supposed to be the most important works of all time, like, I'm sure if the world doesn't explode 100 years from now, there's going to be a fucking chapter on, United States pop culture, and Batman is going to be right at the top of the list of things that were created in the 20th century that people are going to be talking about as forever. I mean, his stories, we look back at, like, the Roman stories now and consider them complete fiction, whereas they, and we study those as fiction. Like, there's no reason you couldn't, study Batman and see, really like a history. You could really use him as like a history of like America and what's happened, like the changes in his character from year to year. You could easily see like the way the world was feeling at the time.
Yeah, very much reflected the culture. So
sure,
happy
we'll talk
75th.
more about him. Yeah, this year there'll be more stuff about him that we'll talk about.
Happy birthday from all of us here at Getchyapulls to the Cape Crusader, and thank you for the positive influence on our lives and the lives of millions of others. And thanks to Bill Finger mainly, but Bob Kane, even thanks to you too.
Yeah, there's Bob Kane. He said he said Batman got a bat outfit, so that is important. It has become like a thing. I mean, Bill Finger seems like he created a large portion of everything we love about Batman, but this is one of those things. Like if Bob Kane still wouldn't have said, "Hey, I got an idea for somebody named Batman. Let's dress him up in a bat outfit," it would have never happened in the first place. So he should still get some credit. But Bill Finger needs to have his name on those comics.
He got some credit in the DC 75th press release.
I saw that.
That's a pretty big step forward.
Yeah, that was awesome. I mean, I think what DC needs to do is be proactive and reach out. I know they're afraid because they don't want it to be like the thing with the fucking...
It's a can of worms
they don't want it to be like
with
Superman. Yeah. They don't want the Siegel and Schuster thing where every couple of years a lawyer finds some new way to try to sue them. And I saw now they're trying to sue for Superboy and Supergirl because, they had to finally a definitive, you can't sue us for Superman. But there is only one living Finger relative that would have any claims. I mean, I think you reach out and be like...
Here, we can give you this much
money.
Here,
we'll give you this much money.
Challenge this ever again.
Exactly. We'll give you this much money, or even, you're fucking DC and Warner Brothers, you're rich. It's like, we'll give you like a small fucking salary for fucking letting this, for this is like your claim to Batman, but, we're going to put Bill Finger on it. Yeah. So there's a business, so that's probably their thinking is like, even though it make people happy, so we're just going to offer to give them money and do something we don't have to do. That's very unbusinesslike, but I think it would do a lot for getting them in the good graces of like other creators.
And I mean, you get like the cold hard corporation line at DC and Marvel both all the time. But I mean, just listening to one of those recent podcasts we were talking about, I heard Denny O'Neil talking about how the Marvel gave him a piece of the money for Iron Man based off of the Obadiah Stane character, and he didn't have any claim to it. It was work for hire. He wasn't expecting anything. They just did it to be cool.
DC may not have done that on Man of Steel, because I saw Mark Waid say something like a lot of the stuff apparently, and there was some Superman Birthright. See, I don't know, because I think Grant Morrison was talking about it, so maybe he got some. But I remember that's the thing too. It's not anybody's contracts, but they said that before Paul Levitz would do that, they said I remember from one of the Jeff Loeb podcasts saying he got a check cut when Batman Begins came out, because they obviously took so much from his writing that even though they didn't have to, they cut him a little check. So I think it's in their contracts now, so people get their just because they sign it. Like, I'm pretty sure Brubaker is going to get a little bit of money, which also, I think he's going to be in this movie. I hope he didn't get cut out, but I know they said that he filmed a scene, a cameo in Winter Soldier, so you got to be looking for him.
That would be great. He's already cameoed in the Superhero Squad cartoon.
Nice. Yeah, I guess we can move on to our books.
Yeah, I got just about 7 minutes left in our normal pod time, and we're ready to get to this Walking Dead finale, so we'll make it quick. But
we don't have a ton of books. All I have is indie books, so you can start where you want to start.
All right. Well, I guess since we're talking about Batman, while not any Batman books in his same universe, we'll start with DC. Had Flash and Aquaman number 29. Brian Buccellato continuing his ending run here, and this was really cool. This was the third part of a Dead Man story that's been going here, and apparently the spirit of this serial killer has been possessing people throughout Central City, and we find out a thing about the Flash's bloodline, that if the ghost possesses him, then they'll never be able to separate them, and there's a great drama sequence there. Of course, at the end, Flash is heroic because we got a new creative team about to take over. So, He's got to be strong going into it. But lots of interesting things going on in this book right now.
I know you're thinking about dropping the Green Lantern.
Yes.
But you can't get away from... What's his name?
Can't get away from Robert Venditti.
He's coming to Flash. Venditti's coming to Flash.
I'm okay with Venditti. I really liked his stories in Green Lantern. The crossovers are too much.
I feel you.
I can't make the investment of all 3 Green Lantern books, and clearly that's what they intend you to do.
Yeah.
It's like if you don't get all 3, then you're never going to get the whole story. So fuck it, I'm just not going to get any of them.
Yeah.
So, not going to force my hand, DC. Then we had Aquaman number 29. Jeff Parker's shining moment thus far. Really crazy moment. Aquaman gets called because this dumb shit stole his fucking trident. This archaeologist, when he was sightseeing in fucking Maine, and takes it to this place in Egypt where they're excavating these pyramids, and there's a place that's shaped like the trident in the pyramid. So the guy's like, okay, I'm gonna stick it in there, and of course it's this doorway to Atlantean hell, where the old king of Atlantis sent all of the fucking most treacherous and evil beings from Atlantean history thousands of years ago.
That is awesome.
So the guy opens it, of course, and all unholy hell breaks through. But
hey, Jeff Parker's been doing good.
Oh yeah, but there was a really crazy twist where this is going to tie into the whole Wonder Woman universe, in that the guy who was the hero, the champion who forced all of the monsters into the hell, is who fights Aquaman first before Aquaman realizing who he is, and it's fucking Hercules, because Marvel doesn't have a claim on that exclusively. I mean, hell, DC could technically do a Thor book if they wanted.
Yeah, they could do one that looked pretty close, too, because the Marvel Thor is pretty close to, the old drawings of Thor.
So you have Hercules now in the DC continuity. Is he a hero? Is he a villain? Has he gone completely mad from being trapped in a hell with all these monsters for thousands of years? Questions need to be answered, and they will be coming up in Aquaman, and it's been fantastic.
Nice.
Moving along to Marvel, we had some big Marvel books this week. Guardians of the Galaxy number 13, Trial of Jean Grey, part 6 of 6, the big finale to what happens when Jean Grey goes on trial. Well, some pretty cool shit happens. Definitely worth checking out. That was a crossover that I really enjoyed, and I'm not a huge fan of those, but luckily we were both getting those books, so it saved us a headache.
Yeah, I've liked All New X-Men enough, but I've got close to your Green Lantern point on All New X-Men, like I say, because now that we've come down to it, I get it, you get Uncanny, and it's a weird thing with Guardians of the Galaxy, so it's we kind of get them, but I was thinking about it the other day, it's they announced another thing that you got to get X-Men, and you got to get fucking Wolverine the X-Men. Now I'm not getting that to understand, that's, I like the book a lot, but it is on the short list of if it pisses me off with another giant crossover that I'm gonna have to spend an extra $20 that month to get, that it would bum me out probably enough to drop it.
Deadpool number 15 was my next issue. It's another one of those buffer issues in the middle that goes back into the fake Marvel archives. A time-traveling story about Nick Fury from the 60s, Cable, Deadpool, and Hitler.
Nice. Always like when they get Hitler in there.
Oh, it's pretty crazy. Hitler comes to the 70s, I believe it is, and it raises all kinds of hell. It's pretty
so can't
funny.
we laugh about Hitler right now? Not about real Hitler, but about nice comedic versions of Hitler? I think so. Isn't bringing in a dumb Hitler version into something where he just gets shit on, isn't that what you want? Is that what you want to do?
Yeah.
You want to keep downplaying this son of a bitch?
Too soon?
Yeah. It's not too soon to make Hitler look like an asshole in a cartoon.
And then over into the X universe, Uncanny Avengers number 18 point now, Avenge the Earth number 1. And let me tell you folks, I said this on Twitter this week, but if you're not following me at Dragons Rejects, I'll tell you again. If your comic books do not have enough alternate futures or corpse parading, then you're not reading Rick Remender's comics. Because if you were a fan of the Uncanny X-Force, they had a really crazy alternate future storyline because of the actions that happened in the comic book with all the crazy deathlocks. Well, in this one...
You just made me think of a great idea for a band.
You have... Go ahead.
What about a cover band that dresses up as zombies, take advantage of that, but plays all Dave Matthews songs called Corpse Marching? That could be a hit on the college circuit, I'm telling you.
It very well could. I don't know who the fuck you'd find to play in it, but maybe somebody.
I don't play anything. I'm just throwing it out there to the world. Anybody wants to steal that?
It's yours.
Do it.
Free idea from the booth. You make $1 million, give him 10.
Yeah, $10.
But yeah, another great alternate future timeline. This is the alternate future of what happens when the world was destroyed in the fucking last issue. So
nice.
Pretty crazy. Then Amazing X-Men number 5, the end of the first arc. What?
Is that the end of Jason Aaron, or has he got one more?
Maybe the end of Aaron. It's definitely the end of the first trade.
I feel hosed a bit.
They've done this a lot, and DC has done it too. They did it on fucking JLA.
Well, you get Jason Aaron to launch Amazing, and then you say the workload's just too big is like the story that you get. But you get him to launch this book,
they did
much like Jeff Loeb did
it
with
on Nova too. Yeah, I was just gonna say.
And then you bring in somebody who's not Jason Aaron to write after the first 5.
Yeah, because it's like I may stick on for this. I'm trying to remember who's coming on.
Is it Chris Yost?
It is Yost from the great X-Force run, which you haven't read, but it's the predecessor to Remender's X-Force, and it's really fucking good. I'll stick around for Yost to see what he's got, but I agree, I feel a little bit hosed. But this issue, if you're a Nightcrawler fan, and if you bought Amazing X-Men, I don't see why you wouldn't be. This is the one where you start fist pumping and are excited that our little Bamfin buddy is back in the 616.
Nice. Well, then on to the indie books. Start out with Fatale, number 21. It's countdown. There's only 3 issues to go after this, so getting close to the end. I think I read in this list that issue 24 is going to be a big whopping 40-pager or something, so that's cool. So get a little bit more story, but it's a great story. You kind of see where they're going. If you're reading the whole time, you can see Josephine and some of the cult people that have kind of been after her. She's setting it up to where she's finally not running, doesn't want to hide anymore. She's going to start a little, looks like a rumble at some point. We're gonna get a little head to head where maybe she's going to try to once and for all end, her curse. And we'll see what happens, but it's really good. You get a cool new character, character Nick that's been started the book and has been in and out, but is back now full time. I'm with her, helping her out, and he's getting to learn more and more about her and how she has power over. They even hint, I don't know if we'll get told, but hint why she's able to control everybody. You meet a guy who is a librarian. You meet a guy who she has no control over. It's pretty awesome. Nick, who got hurt last issue, wakes up and he's in this house and he's got this giant, and he goes into the room and there's a giant library full of all occult books. He's kind of looking at them, and there's this old guy that's, don't touch my books. And he takes his shirt off at one point, and he's got tattoos, occult tattoos all over his body. So somehow he's marked himself up to where he can't be, touched, being a curse. And it's pretty cool, too, because you get to find out how him and Josephine met, and it was at, a book auction for rare books, and he was going to buy this occult book, and Josephine's in his ear, read the book, she can get guys to do whatever she wants, and she's like, you're going to bid on that book, and he's like, I know I am. And he's like, you're going to bid on the book and give it to me. And he's like, well, the fuck would I do that? And it's like, oh no, she finally met someone that doesn't work on. So he's in the book, helping her out too. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty awesome. And it's wrapping up. It's going to be sad when it's over, but it's been such a good story. And even though it's only 24 issues, it's still a good long time. And it's good to get an end. I am under the assumption that is one of the things, even though I do love a bunch of monthly ongoings. When a story actually has a beginning, a middle, and end, it's always going to be more fulfilling than when it doesn't.
Yeah, absolutely, because there's always those lingering threads,
Yeah, so, Brubaker would say he probably could have figured something out, but he thinks it's a good time to end it, so. And, of course, you get immediate Brubaker goodness. He's got to deal with him and Philip, so they can do whatever they want in Image, and on my pull list, I might as well just have whatever they do, just give it to me. Fatale's in there now, but whatever comes out next, put it in its place. And 2 more. Go to Vertigo for The Wake, number 7, the second part of the second half of The Wake. Won't get too much in it. It was awesome. you get a little bit more. You kind of get the history of our new characters and kind of what got them to where they're at, and then, um, not much on the last, after last issue, we heard the voice of the original character in the first half, and don't really get anything explained on there, but we do get like a history of our new characters and what's going on, and a little bit of the history of how the world got to where it is, where it's covered in mostly in water, and while they're living
dominated by sea monsters.
Yeah, and what's going on with like the political structure of, the government is obviously some real dickheads in the new world that's been created. So you get a little bit more into them. Only 3 issues to go of it. The week's been great, and then I guess we'll get to what I guess is pick of the week. Is it pick of the week?
I'd say it is pick of the week. I don't know of another book this week that kept me on edge. I mean, I definitely had some good ones in the mainstreams. Yeah. Like, it was an all-star week for that, but fucking Walking Dead.
124.
And I mean, we're here, like, on the cusp of the end of this all-out war.
We got 2 issues left, man, and you just are not sure about what's going to happen to people. Because as of right now, it's one of the things that Walking Dead does the best. And especially in the show, like, sometimes in the book, like, you kind of, like, see who might be in trouble. But in this issue, it's like, you're really, like, I mean, a bunch of things have happened. Rick is obviously injured. He got the news, him and his team of the baby faces got the news that anybody that was, they're all starting to get, like, a fever that they can't, like, get rid of. And, and they found out the news that they'd all been poisoned. They figured out that they'd been hit with arrows covered in the gook. So, the idea that they're trying to get you, the thread they're trying to get you to follow is that they're all going to turn into zombies that had been injured, which I guess is possible, but doesn't seem likely. I just don't see Rick, anything happening to Rick. As a matter of fact, I almost feel like by them just getting a little bit in them, that it could work the opposite. I got a small predictor that Rick is going to become to where he can get bit by zombies and can't get sick because he got the zombie stuff inside of him already. I think that's
a pretty unique take. I think that's a pretty good direction for them to go.
That's possible how he's going to come out of it. But the bigger threat is who's going to die, because you're always afraid that some of your favorite characters are going to get killed, and nobody really, other than Rick, if you buy the fact that Rick might possibly die, which I don't, everybody else is pretty much equal in their danger. I mean, in this issue, if you've been following along, if you haven't, big spoilers, but, we always give spoilers, but, Negan broke in, had a big fight, bunch of secondary people, Negan's people got killed, and Negan and his crew's just waiting right on the other side of, where Rick's at, waiting on them to turn into zombies and eat them from the inside out. So you don't know what's going to happen in the next 2 issues,
Yeah, I think there was an interesting synergy with the show in this issue. Did you pick that up?
I don't know what you're talking about, so no.
With Eugene. Like, I don't think it was intentional, but, like, in this issue, Eugene definitely is, like, he has his most badass moment yet in the comic, is, like, really the most heroic he's ever been. And in the show, like, he kind of had that idiot savant moment last week where they ended up finding the survivors. They found Maggie and them by driving around, and normally he's just played off as an inept fucking loser. Yeah. So I just thought it was unique that both the comic and last week's episode of the show had a Eugene shine spot, because you usually don't get that.
Also, best panel of the comic, at least for content wise, goes on page 6 where Jesus throws a straight up drop kick on somebody. Yes. That's his attack move. I think he's done it twice now. Whenever Rumble gets started, he goes in and throws a drop kick on a motherfucker.
He learned his zombie fighting offense from fucking Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson, apparently.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, the shit kind of went down. There was a bunch of gunfire, a bunch of people got shot, a bunch of people got hurt. And then, at the end we find out, Rick and them understand that they may be infected. So only 2 issues to go. It's going to be really interesting to see where it goes from here, like what's going to happen. Generally you can kind of see a little bit of like what's going to happen, but I have no idea how this is going to end up working out before it's over with.
No. And on to next week, what are you looking at, man? I don't have anything but 2 measly pulls. One of them is the On Death Row Green Lantern, and the other one is Captain America, which I am really looking forward to.
I got a bunch. I've got it's Action Detective Week, so I get Action, I get Detective, which will be the first detective with the new creative team, so I'm really looking forward to that. I was looking forward because Buccellato and Manapal. Buccellato was talking about how they're really going to deal with like the small scale, where the Snyder's kind of the big scale and the architect and all that. It's like he's telling detective stories. He's like that's his thing. It's going to be Batman working cases, and so really pumped for that. So get that with a new creative team. So that's awesome. That's starting. Green Arrow, still working out the big
The Outsiders
Outsiders
War.
War. That's going and been awesome. So that's still going on. I think it's the last issue of Trillium, so that'll be behind us and be coming to somebody near you for probably like $15 on eBay. So watch out for that. Then I got a couple other books too. Oh yeah, it's She-Hulk and Moon Knight are both first week of the month comics too. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of fortunate, honestly, with such a busy week that I only have the 2 books because with Captain America and Game of Thrones and WrestleMania, it's going to be one, not to mention my own bookings. Empire Wrestling, Facebook.com/Empire Wrestling.
I'll get them all read Wednesday for sure because starting Thursday, there's going to be plenty of other entertainment to look forward to. But yeah, or Monday used to be like my light week there for a while, and I dropped Action because it sucked. Before I had Green Arrow, I remember the first week of the month I never got shit, but now I get it all. All the pulls. I'm going to get them.